Peace, family, and welcome to another installment of the STEM Files, where we highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. On tonight's episode, we discuss sickle cell disease with mentor and clinical research scientist Tahirah Muhammad. Stay tuned for more after this. All right, again, welcome back, family, to the STEM Files, the voice of STEM talent in Black culture. I am one of your co-hosts, Jabril Muhammad, aka Jabrilliant Engineer. I am a mechanical engineer specializing in naval ship fluid systems with a background in material science and engineering, focusing on metallurgy and failure analysis. I am joined by my partner in righteousness, my big bro, Tariq Muhammad. What's going on, bro?
What's going on? What's going on? Happy to be here on another edition of the STEM Files, where we, like Jabril mentioned, where we highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in the Black community. I am Tariq Muhammad, aka Tariq Cardiac. I am a biomedical research scientist with a concentration in cardiovascular pathobiology, which is the study of how diseases form in the heart and blood vessels. Can't wait for tonight's show.
That's right. That's right. Like always, family, the show is not about us. We just come to bring you the content, and we let our illustrious guests do that themselves. So without further ado, we want to introduce my big sis, my mentor, Sister Tahirah Muhammad. What's going on, Queen?
All praise is due to Allah. Thank you, brothers, for having me this evening. It is a pleasure to join you all. I think this is my third time on your show.
Yeah, we on part 3.
And it just keeps getting better and better. So I'm excited for this evening.
Praise be to
Allah.
Allah.
Wonderful. And just to let everyone know, this is the very first show that we're doing on National Network View as well. So every Saturday, the STEM Files is every Thursday and Saturday, but on Saturdays, we're going to be coming to you live from not only the STEM Files platform, but also from National Network View. So definitely go ahead and check them out on their social media handles. And we look forward to tonight's show.
All right. So without further ado, we're going to get into some of Sister's background, and then we're going to let the questions roll from there. Praise be to Allah. Right. So our sister, Tahirah Austin, is the co-founder and chief operations officer of the Crescent Foundation. He's a fighter and an advocate with a passion to help those with SCD, sickle cell disease, attain a better quality of life with independence. Raised in Philadelphia, she attended Newman University and holds a degree in biology. She currently works as a clinical researcher at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, where she also spends countless hours volunteering and mentoring. Diagnosed with SCD at 6 years old, she braved many health challenges that have given deep purpose to her positive spirit and ambitious nature. She enjoys traveling the country, sharing her story, and raising SCD awareness. In 2011, she was named the Advocate of the Year by Global Genes and became the youngest board member of the Dragonfly Forest Camp in 2016. Shout out to D-Fly. As a leader in the SCD community, she is dedicated to ensuring equal rights and treatment for those oppressed and made to feel unworthy because of their illness. Wow. Yes. Okay, you were muted, so make sure you're good. With that, family, let's get right into the show. So, what I want to do is I definitely want to unpack, maybe your crowning achievement, one thing you're very passionate about, the Crescent Foundation. What is the Crescent Foundation? Why is it so important to you? What are the great feats you have achieved for your foundation?
Brother, can you repeat that last question?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Can you hear me okay?
Now it's perfectly clear.
Okay, awesome. I was saying just get into the Crescent Foundation as one of your, if not crowning achievements. What is the Crescent Foundation, and what have been some of the achievements and accomplishments you made through the foundation?
Yes. So Crescent Foundation, we are a local nonprofit here in Philadelphia. We serve adults living with sickle cell disease in Philly and the Delaware Valley. So we support evidence-based research, and our mission is to focus on the improving the quality of life of adults living with sickle cell disease, while also supporting that evidence-based research that we find is helpful to our adults living with sickle cell disease, and bridging that gap or closing that gap when it comes to transitioning from pediatric care to adult care. So Crescent is a baby in the nonprofit world, like in philanthropy,
Mm-hmm.
but our strides have been humongous, and our successes have been extraordinary because of the backing of the community, and that's really the God honest truth. And then we work hard, of course, right? So in 2016, one of our friends passed away. It hit us really hard. It was very emotional for me because during that time I was living in Ghana and teaching in Ghana. And so this was a really good friend of mine who, I kept in touch with even while I was gone. When I arrived back into the States around September of 2016, I was supposed to go visit her at the hospital, and within a week she was gone.
Wow.
And so for my other two co-founders, Eddie Yomi Utuk Lowry, and my other co-founder, Kyle Smith, we went back to the organization that we know best, that always supports us in those times, and that's CHOP, that's Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And so and that's because our pediatric team is our second family. These are the ones who raised us, who got us to be this healthy. All of everything I know about sickle cell disease and wanting to be a hematologist and wanting to go into science was because I was raised and cared for by this pediatric team. So
Right.
we went back, we turned to them, and they were honest with us. They were like, no, the same thing our lessons say, do for self. They
Right.
told us, you all have to be the ones to what you all are looking for and what you all need in the adult community with living with sickle cell disease. Y'all have to be the ones to provide that. Y'all know what you all need. So you can't go begging and asking and being upset because it's not there. Y'all know what it is that y'all need. So why don't y'all make it? We'll
Mm.
Mm.
support you. We'll back
Right.
you as the
Right.
elders and as the adults of in this sickle cell community, but y'all have to be at the forefront. Y'all have the ideas, y'all have the brilliance, y'all have the intelligence, y'all have the innovation, right? Because we knew we didn't want to just come out being another nonprofit, right? And I think being a nonprofit
Right.
nowadays is like the running joke. Everybody could get a 501c3. It costs $125 in Pennsylvania to do the filing. It's not, it's an accomplishment, but it's not something that's a big deal.
Right, right.
First
Where the big
step.
deal comes from is sustaining that nonprofit. How do you get sustainability? And that's where us in the Black community, we have all of the skills, but when you talk about having a business and an organization that sustains itself and that brings forth great programming, that can become difficult because you do a lot of your support is raising money and getting donations. And so we had to figure out, how can we step out of that realm, still ask for support from our community, but how do we support ourselves? And
Right.
so we all started literally just researching, how do I learn grant writing? If it's going to be three co-founders, and we did that on purpose. It's three of us that has founded Crescent Foundation, and all three of us are living with sickle cell disease. And it could have just been one, and everyone else took a different role. But all three of us are executive leaders because having an organization or any business is a lot of work,
Right.
and everyone comes with a different skill set. And it wouldn't have been smart for me to be the CEO and not have anyone else, or for Kyle just to be the CEO and not have anyone else. That way, if anything falls down, well, nothing should fall down because it's always at least two of us that can hold it up, right? If two of us are sick, it's always at least one of us that can hold it up, that can
Right.
keep it pushing. And so we did that. Was purposefully done so that we know that there's really no excuse for Crescent not to keep moving and sustaining itself. So with learning grant writing, really digging into venture philanthropy, what it means to, actually be a business, have a product that you sell, but that brings forth all of your funding to keep your programming going, right?
Yes. Right.
So
Right.
and that's where Crescent is. We are into venture philanthropy where we have people who are interested in investing. We learn what, even in the pharmaceutical world with all of these different therapeutic treatments coming down the line, instead of being on the back end and only needing or only using the treatment, we're on the front end, like, okay, this is in phase 1 or this is in the phase 3 of the clinical trial. This looks very promising. We should invest here.
Right. Right.
Right. So that way now we're getting some big bucks off of the drugs or off of the treatments that's coming to our community.
Right.
Talk about it.
Right. So it's not just, we're on the back end and we're begging pharma and we're begging the government to give us a cure. We're kind of like beyond that as adults. And I say that because having a cure for sickle cell disease is always, what for me will always be in the forefront for the children who are coming up. But for adults, my thing is improving quality of life, because you have to be really plastic. You have to have really great health to withstand some of those curative therapies.
Right.
Body wise, your body has had to not have so much organ damage. Really to even be qualified to go through a stem cell transplant or a bone marrow transplant or even gene therapy. So improving quality of life with different treatments, holistic care, but then also on the end of, let's overcome some of these social barriers that are really being a burden on our adults living with sickle cell disease. And that's how you improve quality of life. That's how you empower. That's how you encourage independence. That's how you get a lot of people off of depending on government assistance. So it's not just I can advocate for you, but I can teach you how to advocate for yourself.
Right.
And
Right.
I can
Right.
teach you all of these different skills how to do for yourself. And that's all we're trying to bring to the table. It's amazing how our teachings fall in line to mostly everything that we do. We have a program called Bridging the Gap, and that was thought of by me because during that time I was referencing closing the gap,
Right.
and it
Right.
just reminded me. Our program reminded me so much of the minister and Brother Jabril's conversation throughout the book. And really just having someone reach back to this, to these young people with all these questions, and pull them forth so they can learn or have the skill set on, how to move forward, especially with our mission. And that's where Bridging the Gap for Crescent came about, because it was, we're all adults now in this game, or with having sickle cell disease. So we wanted to be the ones to turn around and say, look, this is how you do it when you get to transitioning age, right? So you shouldn't be fearful for transitioning into the adult world, because these are the skills you need. And I'm gonna answer all your questions. And I'm gonna
Yes,
be
ma'am.
here to guide, and I'm gonna guide you the best that I can. And it's not just gonna be me. Now you got a whole team of us.
Mm.
So that's how that program came about. So Crescent has been really successful, especially in Pennsylvania, with policy change, and in reference to our local adult hospital having extended hours for adults when it comes to our infusion centers, being at the tables for these medical advisory teams, and being the ones to tell them, we need to speak to the chief of the ED. It's no longer just I need to talk to the nurses. I need to talk to the chief, because the chief runs it. And not only the chief, I need to talk to the CEO of Penn Medicine.
Right. Right.
And so now it's funny, because that's our best friend. He's one of our biggest donors,
Wow.
Wow.
Praise be to Allah.
right? And that's where we start making friendships in all walks of life, right? So it's actually knowing what you're coming with and how much of an asset you are to that company. We were able to tell him more about his ED and how much money he was losing. And if you did these things better when it comes to the sickle cell community, you can lower your bottom line, get out of the red, and start making some money. Everybody love to talk about money when you're a CEO and you're a CFO. That money talks, and
Right.
that's where I try to tell people. It's of course we want to do good. That's the half. The other part is that in order to sustain yourself, you got to talk the language to these people. And at the end of the day, they may have a good heart, they may not. But when it comes to their business, they want their business to stay afloat. They want their business, hospitals get graded. Everybody wants an A. Everyone wants to be on the cover of the best hospitals in the US. Or
Yep.
everyone. Penn is always on there. Penn is always top 5, top 10. CHOP as well.
Right.
Once you start losing, your marks start lowering in terms of how well your ED is ran, and especially when you're an umbrella organization, meaning you have a whole bunch of hospitals under that umbrella of Penn Medicine. You're gonna have the right people at the table. You're gonna want to listen to them.
Right. Right.
And so that's all it came down to. It was, you have too many people in this side of the ED that you're serving. And if you serve them in this amount of time, or if you extended the hours in this infusion center, it will decrease the amount of people coming to your ED who have sickle cell disease. And once he realized that, it was, okay, I need to really pay attention to this organization and keep you all around, because now you're talking about my money.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the gist of Crescent and what we've been doing so far. September is Sickle Cell Awareness Month, so of course we have a campaign called Strive for 100K, and that is about approximately 100,000 people in the U.S. live with sickle cell disease. So we thought that we could, and we will, educate 100,000 people about sickle cell disease, raise $100,000, $1 for every person living with sickle cell disease. All right, and that's our campaign.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're striving for 100K.
Listen, family, we out here getting it. This is the STEM Firefighter, the voice of STEM talent and Black culture, right? She gave us a lot about process, policy, and she gave us a lot of passion, but impact with hella information. But I would be remiss if I did not, as a true scientist, clear some terms. So I think I put the cart before the horse. I kind of went into the foundation when we didn't clear sickle cell or sickle cell disease.
Yes.
So for listeners, us and those listening, what is a sickle cell? What is sickle cell disease? And also, why does it have such a attachment or correlation to the Black community?
Sure. So sickle cell disease is a red blood disease or a hemoglobinopathy. So what it does is it affects the hemoglobin in your red cells, and the hemoglobin is a protein that helps you carry oxygen around your body, right? So in order for us to have those oxygen capabilities, we need our red blood cells to be healthy. And a healthy red blood cell is more of a donut shape, very soft, very flexible red blood cell. It can travel throughout the body very easily, get through your veins, get through your vessels without any problems.
Right.
And sickle cell disease, because the hemoglobin is infected, the hemoglobin lacks that oxygen capability. So what happens is that red blood cell becomes hard and rigid, and it takes on the shape of a crescent, right? Like a crescent moon. And that's where or the sickle, like the garden tool. And that's where the term, or for its namesake, sickle cell, comes from.
Right.
It's a genetic blood disorder. So in order to get sickle cell disease, you have to receive one copy from each parent. And then that baby is born with those 2 copies, and you get sickle cell disease. What many people don't realize is there are many different types of different genotypes of sickle cell disease. Sickle cell disease is just the umbrella term. But you have, so for instance, I live with SS.
Right.
So that means my parents both carried the S gene. My dad was AS, my mom was AS. I was their first and only born, so I came out with SS. But there are those who are born with sickle cell disease, but mom may have S and dad may have C. Or mom may have S and dad may have beta thalassemia, 0 or plus. It depends. Wherever in the world there is malaria present, because sickle cell disease came out of what's the term I'm looking for? A defense mechanism. The trait was
Adaptation.
exactly. So sickle cell trait is a defense, it's the adaptation to fighting or living longer in order to combat malaria. It does, some people mistake that for having immunity, and that's not true.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't have an immunity from malaria.
Right.
You just are able to survive with malaria if you have sickle cell trait, if you are a trait carrier, opposed to those who don't have the trait, who are not trait carriers, or those who have sickle cell disease. Both of those groups die off very quickly. So if everyone is, if many people are adapting to malaria and they're getting sickle cell trait, what's going to happen? They're going to mate with each other,
Right.
and not know.
Right.
But they're not going to know until, a baby comes out and then something doesn't seem right. Something, is very much different than just having the trait. And so for many years, people thought that if you had the trait, you didn't have any issues, you're going to be fine. But some research is showing now that even those with trait, they're starting to have some similarities even when it comes to certain pain. Maybe not as bad as those who are living with sickle cell disease, but for instance, if you go to a place where the altitude is very high, so somewhere like Colorado in the mountains, you have many athletes who are trait carriers, and when they go up there, if they are football players, they become in like what we call a sickle cell crisis. They experience a lot of pain.
Right.
And so, and that's what we're starting to learn now, that there's something about that copy, just having that one copy, that even if you are an athlete or you live in certain areas of the world where the altitude is really high, you can even start experiencing some complications similar to those living with sickle cell disease. So I always like to end that science piece to people on the most important things to know about sickle cell disease is it affects Black people the way it does because it's a disease that the adaptation began in West Africa, but it also went to anywhere that malaria was present. So we know malaria to be a disease that is carried by mosquitoes and in warm climates. So that means South America, that means in the Caribbean,
Right.
that means in the Mediterranean,
Right.
that means in parts of Asia, parts of India. So you have all of these different, globally, sickle cell disease is a diverse disease. You're talking about people of all ethnicities being able to being born with this disease. But in the
Right.
US, because of transatlantic slavery,
Come on.
right?
Talk
Because
about it.
the same thing in the Caribbean, you have this influx of sickle cell disease, and why the face of it is Black.
Right.
So you have to be able to trace that research. And the dope thing about having sickle cell disease is as painful as it is, it gives you a reason to trace back your roots and figure out where exactly am I from,
Go
right?
ahead.
Because for me, it's always been like, okay, well, most of my family is from the Caribbean, but I'm able to go even further back because of the type of sickle cell that I have. Because I have sickle cell disease SS, I'm able to trace back. I'm able to trace back the countries in West Africa where most people have SS,
Wow.
and that's Senegal. So most people with my type of genetic type or genotype are in Senegal, Nigeria, and Ghana.
Mm.
And because I lived in Ghana, and when I got there, they were like, they looked at me and said, "No, no, no, sister, you're not from Ghana." Right?
That's
They were like,
opposite
they
than
were
they said for me.
right. They're able to tell you just off your features, your
Right.
complexion. Like, no, 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 sister. And
Right.
so
That's how they say
I
it too.
I was able to just really figure out, past being from the Caribbean, like where did this gene get placed at in my family? Like from where?
Right.
In the country of Senegal. So that's the very interesting part of having sickle cell disease. And it's over 22 different genotypes. But in the US, we see 4. We see SS, we see SC, we see sickle beta thalassemia plus and or major and minor.
Praise be to Allah. Wow. Thank you so
Gosh,
much.
yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to give everybody watching a brief history lesson on Sister Tahirah's presence on the STEM files. This is her third, as you can tell from the title, this is her third time being on the STEM files. She was one of our first guests when we came on when we started 4 years ago on Blog Talk Radio. Yeah. And then again, when we started doing our shows on YouTube back in 2018. So her presence and her sharing her story on the STEM files is all too familiar. And we call it parting of the Red Sea because the Red Sea is supposed to be representing the blood. And then the parting is supposed to be representing what's going on with the cells, the red blood cells in that blood. So just wanted to give everybody a brief history breakdown on our relationship with Sister Tahirah. One of the questions I wanted to ask is related to what's going on right now in terms of the 2020 coronavirus pandemic. Have you and your team been able to study or observe any of the changes that may take place in someone who is carrying the sickle cell trait when they are infected with COVID-19, or has that, considering this is a new strain of this virus, have you been able to see it, or has it yet to manifest itself in those individuals?
That's a great question. So we haven't been able to see how it's affected those who are trait carriers, but we have been able to see how it affects those with sickle cell disease. So with having both copies. And there's actually a national registry for those who have sickle cell disease and have a positive, who became positive for COVID-19. And because I don't know if you all have been keeping up with the many documents that the CDC releases about, who's the most vulnerable, who's the most at risk, or who's at higher risk. And sickle cell disease, when they were first talking about like who should come back to school or come back to work, those living with sickle cell disease were at the top of the list because the complications that a person without sickle cell disease experiences are the same complications that those with sickle cell disease experience without COVID-19. So when you're talking about breathing issues or your lungs collapsing, your immune system just not being that strong to withhandle that type of infection. That's stuff that us with sickle cell disease experience. That's one of our major complications. And it's a type of pneumonia that we get called acute chest syndrome that really exacerbates that complication to where when it comes to COVID-19, we're on the top of the list of vulnerability and being at such risk. And so for many of us, one of the things that Crescent is doing was doing these Crescent Care Kits where we're sending like the best type of PPE and mask, to adults living with sickle cell disease, just so that they can stay safe out here. We know that people have to still maintain their livelihood and go to work and and do the things that they need to do. But we really want our adults living with sickle cell disease to stay safe because it's just not good. It's not good to have a positive test for COVID-19 and then start to experience those complications on top of having sickle cell disease. And that's just basic, because our immune systems is just no matter how healthy we are, our immune system just cannot withstand that type of virus, that type of viral infection. So it's really good. This is the first time that we've seen a registry come about because of a virus. We don't even really know the exact number of adults or people living with sickle cell disease in the U.S. Because we don't have a solid national registry. But when COVID-19 hit, this was like prime time science and research, right, to get that data. So get the data. If they have sickle cell disease and they have a positive test for COVID-19, we need to know where they are, where they're located, trace that back, have contact tracers, but then also know what complications and experiences are they coping with or burdening them with. And then also, where in the country are the most people living with sickle cell disease um, being faced with COVID-19. So, and that was brought about by Boston University. So they were the ones at the forefront of developing that national registry for those living with sickle cell disease and COVID-19.
Okay, you mentioned earlier on in the program, and I'm going to come at this from a biological standpoint and try to be as simple with it as possible, or as much as you can. You mentioned earlier on in the show that the malaria virus, that having the sickle cell trait can protect you from the effects of the malaria virus. What is the reason for the coronavirus having more of a potent effect on the blood than the malaria virus? What is the difference going on there?
So with one is a bacterial infection, right? So with malaria, that's more of a bacterial infection. And with those who have sickle cell disease, we don't quite understand it yet. But bacterial infections, excuse me, versus viral infections don't wreak havoc on us as fast. With malaria, the complications that come from that, dehydration is one. You can fight those a lot more easier than your lungs collapsing from a viral infection like COVID-19. And I think what it boils down to is what the bacterial infection, how it affects you, or what is its purpose in your body of what it's doing. With malaria is trying to figure out another place to live, right? They're trying to use you as a host.
Right.
The viral infection, they're just going to take over your whole body and replicate itself, right? And that's what it does. So it'll start in your lungs, excuse me, and then from there you can have sepsis. It's a few steps that you get to with COVID-19 and its complications. But to go straight to your point of your question, it's just the basic of the type of complications that each one the difference of complications that each one persists in a person with sickle cell disease. One is just looking to use you as a host, and it's going to suck all everything from you and cause you to get really dehydrated, which is horrible for a person living with sickle cell disease. The other one is going to attack your lungs and cause you to not be able to breathe properly, and then keep replicating because that's what viruses do.
Right. Jay?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Queen Family. We are live at the STEM Files, the voice of STEM talent in Black culture, every Thursday and Saturday, 6 p.m. We are Jabril Engineer and Tariq Cardiac. For more of our content, just understanding what's going on, what we're doing over here, follow us on Instagram at The STEM Files, and see shows past and present on the STEM Files on YouTube and live at the STEM Files on Facebook as well. It is now the halfway point of tonight's show. At the halfway point, we love to do our best to highlight one Black business and showcase what's going on. So I have the wonderful, wonderful pleasure of highlighting my lovely and beautiful wife's business, as she is now a budding and growing entrepreneur.
That's right.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. She is Allah K Lash Boutique. She is a certified lash technician doing individual lashes. She also sells different beauty products, whether it be strip lashes and different skincare and cosmetic products as well. So for those looking for a lash upgrade and to do, as she says, lash out with your look, she's always booking appointments. So if you're in the greater Philadelphia area, please check her out and DM her at K-Philly on Instagram as shown, as well as reach out to her to get beauty products as well. My baby out here doing things, y'all. So make sure to support and get all of your beauty needs from K-Lash Boutique.
That's right.
She is. You should be very proud of her.
I am. She getting me. I'm trying to grind like her. Like I'm trying to do a lot.
I know that's right.
So yes, definitely. So as we continue, I guess a bit more of your story when you talk about really just dealing with sickle cell as an adult, and you talk about dealing with others. This is not something that I was thinking about sharing, but someone who I was at D-Fly with for some time, we actually just lost. So, and it's kind of the first time I've kind of really dealt with that. We weren't extremely close, but like on your side, how is that interaction with families, and kind of how does that kind of affect what you all do in your foundation as you move forward?
Yeah. So I'll give you a bit of my story. And so I was diagnosed with sickle cell disease at 6 years old, and that's really unusual, especially given that I was born in '86, and the Sickle Cell Treatment Act was already was just passed around '85, and so I should have been um, I should have been screened for sickle cell disease at birth. However, we always have to worry about where we have our babies. And the hospital structures where we have our babies. I was born at Chestnut Hill Hospital in the 80s. Chestnut Hill, if you're familiar with that hospital, it's a suburb of Philadelphia. So this is a suburban hospital that caters to white families. And so because sickle cell disease has that stigma of being a black disease, a black baby is born, I wasn't screened for it. Right? So I was born full term. I wasn't born with anything that looked obviously different. But around 5 and 6 years old, especially once I started school, my parents began to I will always complain about my stomach hurting or just being tired, And it wasn't like I was not a child who didn't like to play or enjoy the outside. I was very much like my daughter. My daughter loves the outside. But when I would play, I would come in and I would be beat.
Right.
And it was like extreme tired, extreme thirst, and then pain. My stomach hurts, my legs hurt. And so finally I remember my first crisis because it was such a traumatic experience. I remember being at school and I could not hold my head up. And I was in kindergarten. And my dad, I remember sitting on the nurse's bench, and the nurse said, "I'm going to call your dad. And if your dad doesn't get here in time, we're going to call an ambulance and we're going to take you to the hospital." And my dad got there in time. And I can remember my dad putting me in the front seat of his car and zooming down 76 to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And when we got there, again, this is where health equity comes in. My parents were surrounded by white doctors who did not ask them the appropriate questions.
Right.
And so they initially diagnosed me with lymphoma. And then they diagnosed me again with leukemia. So you can only think of what my parents were experiencing with their 6-year-old being diagnosed with these extreme, complicated, complex disorders. And it took a Black young fellow. She was a budding hematologist from North Carolina. She went to Chapel Hill, and her name back then she was Dr. Kim Smith. And she asked the attending, the hematology attending, can she take a look again at my blood work, at my labs?
Right.
And she took a look at my labs, and she ran my labs again. And she came back and she said she doesn't have cancer. She doesn't have a blood cancer.
Right.
She has sickle cell disease. These are her
Right.
two genetic copies.
Praise be to Allah.
Did you get the information from her parents? And they never had asked my parents any type of information, as
That is
if
the thing.
right. But this is why you need more of us in these houses. This is why we need our own hospitals. This is why you have to encourage this generation and the generation after to go into science, because we can only ask those cultural questions when we are familiar with our own people.
Right.
Right. And that's what it boils down to. If you're not familiar with a certain culture or a certain people, you don't know those questions to ask. You'll ask the regular questions, where you from, what y'all do, where do you work? They always want to know if you're on Medicaid or Medicare or if you have private insurance, right? And so and they'll do that to you. And then what it does is it intimidates Black people, Black parents, and then you turn over your child to them and you don't know what's going on. You don't know what they're doing. You don't really know how to advocate for yourself. So I thank God. I thank Allah for that doctor to this day. That's my mentor, one of my biggest advocates, Dr. Kim Smith Whitley. She is now the director of hematology, not just the sickle cell program, of hematology at Children's Hospital. And then she runs the sickle cell program at CHOP. And so it was because of her. This was a Black woman, a dark-skinned Black woman who I saw in science, who I saw in hematology, and I was like, I want to be like her.
Ooh, that must have been amazing.
It was the most amazing feeling. When people hear my story, it's not just me having sickle cell disease that made me want to get into STEM. It's because I had someone that looked like me. Reputation matters, right? Representation matters. I had a dark-skinned Black woman who was a scientist and told me to my face, you can do what I do. Gave me all of my first recommendations to college. She wrote them. My first research position, she wrote the recommendation. She was able to vouch for me. I had that support in my corner. And we have to be that for our young adults. It's all about opening the door for the next generation, the next generation. You can't do this work by yourself. You just cannot. It's not possible. You have to have someone on the other side that either kick down the door for you or open it for you. And so how sickle cell disease and Crescent Foundation support those who are coming, who are adults and especially in the time of death, is really just by being that support system that we did not have when we experienced the death of our friend years ago, right? So I know of the young lady that you talk about, Jabril, who we just lost, and she was a former camper and counselor of Dragonfly Forest.
Right.
And so what we're doing is to support her family is actually putting together a scholarship in her name. And then she leaves behind a 2-year-old son. And so supporting him.
Right.
And we're still figuring out, the details of, how we're going to do it and what he needs. But that's what it comes down to. And so far, we've done that for 3 people, or three young adults who have passed due to complications with sickle cell disease, where we continue to support their families ongoing, long-term, with their basic needs. Like, so even if that means that this family at this certain time they're having a difficult time with utilities, with food, we help supply that. We'll get out there and support them. And so when it comes to my story of living with sickle cell disease, I always had a great support system, but I yearned as an adult living with sickle cell disease for an organization that I could turn around and they had my back. When I went through things in the hospital, I needed an organization to report those mishaps to, so that they can advocate on my behalf. And that's what Crescent is here for. So when it comes to people who are stigmatized when they go into the ED or labeled a drug seeker, they could contact Crescent and we can handle that.
That's right.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
When they're not getting the appropriate service, or they've been sitting in the ED for long hours and not being seen, you can call Crescent and we handle that. But we handle that in real time, but then also long term, so it doesn't happen again and we don't have to keep going through these things.
Right.
And that comes with having these programs like 1G and 1 Life that we have, where we go and we literally teach first year med students.
Uh-oh. Come on.
There she go.
Good.
All right.
I'm sorry. I think I'm here.
Fine.
Yeah, I'm here. So we have 1G, 1 Life, and one of the ways that we in real time combat, that those biases that many doctors have, or many healthcare workers period have, is by coming to them before they get into those hospitals. So when they're still students, and teaching them and really humanizing sickle cell disease. So then you get to see those who are living with sickle cell disease when they're healthy and what we look like, and know that some of us are in the same arena that you are.
Right.
A lot of us are in the sciences. Right. Some of us are engineers. But now you get this, put a face to this disease, that we're not just our disease. We're not just the term sickler that they like to put on us. We are engineers. We're lawyers. One of our best friends, he's a big time lawyer in New York, and he lives with sickle cell disease. We're activists. That's why when you see our video, that's real. Like we're in this just like the average person, but we have this chronic illness, and we're trying to live this life of independence, of high quality, but still have an independent and lifestyle and have careers.
Yes, ma'am. Praise Allah. I love how you brought that up, talking about self-advocacy, but then after self-advocacy, which is important, community advocacy as well. Having that community you can go back to, that support system, that, hey, I'm asking these questions, I'm speaking up or doing my best, but I don't know certain things. They're using big words, and I feel a bit threatened, or I feel like I need, to tag somebody in. Crescent Foundation comes in and handles business. The same way, though, family and friends. I always love when I hear stories about, families, black families in their delivery room, and they done got their nurse, sister, the surgeon, aunt, and the doctor, they're holding it down. You're not going to do nothing.
But that's how you have to do it.
From there, what's that medication right there? Oh no, he needs this instead. I was like, yup, definitely do that. All praise is due to Allah. But we do have a question from the audience. I want to make sure that we ask. So we have Ayana Pittman, and she asks, what do you think about the medicine Dacvio? Am I saying that right? Dacvio?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't hear you. I broke up. I heard.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Can you see my face?
We can't see your face.
No, ma'am.
I don't know what's going on. I hear you all, but I can't see myself in the camera again.
Your camera's on, right?
Yeah, my camera's on, because when I click it, that icon comes up.
I tell you what, you can leave the studio and come back in using that same link. Let's try that. All
right. Thank you, family, for your patience as we go through a few technical difficulties, but she should be right back on as she comes back in the studio. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, this has been a great show. I always enjoy having our sister on, and I think she's the first 3-time guest that we've had on the show.
Right.
And there she is right there. Hold on.
Okay, hold on. All right.
I hear y'all and I see you. Okay.
saying.
Okay, question. What was the question?
Yes, ma'am. So from our audience member Ayana Pittman, she asked, "What do you think about a medication called a Adakveo? Does that sound familiar? Adakveo.
Yes. So yep, and you pronounced it you pronounced it right. So Adakveo, the other term is crizolizumab, is an infusion drug. So it's what it really is a monoclonal antibody. So they infuse you with it. That antibody helps with increasing production of hemoglobin.
Okay.
Right.
And it also reduces sickling of the red blood cells. So, in essence, what it's trying to do, or what it's striving to do, is decrease the amount of pain episodes that you have due to constant sickling of the red blood cells. So, I think actually for that particular treatment, I followed crizolizumab from phase 1 until it hit FDA and was approved late last year or early last year. And that's one of the treatments that I really stand by, because the not only did the data look really good on paper, but the amount of in pediatrics, on the pediatric side, the amount of young adults who started that treatment, their pain episodes and crises and hospitalizations decreased in half over a year. So you're talking about young adults who wanted to go to college, who wanted, because of this monthly infusion treatment that they received. And so because it's a monthly infusion, a nurse sometimes comes out to your house, or depending on your insurance, you might go to the hospital and you have this infusion given to you, whether you have a port or straight into about 30 minutes, and then that's it. There aren't any major side effects. One of the side effects that we
Sister,
had
Sister
been
Tahirah, real quick,
hearing
can you
about
hear me?
is being extreme, but those, the tiredness, what we've looked at, has gotten better within 24 hours, and the back pain has gotten better after 3 infusion.
Sis, you really breaking up for us. Okay. All right.
All right, she'll come back in. I
Okay.
think she was probably in a bad area.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Again, pardon us, family, working through a couple kinks as we approach the end of the show. For all those who have commented and been with us this whole time, thank you all so much for your continued support. I know we have learned an awful lot. This is the 3rd time having sis on, but every time she comes back, she has some new venture that has occurred and happened through her foundation, and continues to inspire us to do what we're doing on the side of the STEM files, continue to highlight those in our community. You there, Queen?
I hear you both and I see you. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we
Yes, ma'am.
running down that drug and everything. We're kind
All
of breaking down.
right.
You're good.
I apologize.
Yes.
So sir.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm trying
Oh,
to.
so I was trying to see where should I pick back up at
You can.
Adakveo?
Yes, and you could talk about. You were talking about some of the, I think, clinical trials, or like what you've seen. I think at a certain point, and whether or not you.
Yes. So when it comes to side effects with taking Adakveo, there aren't any major side effects that we have seen, but 2 of the side effects that we have heard complaints about is being tired right after receiving the infusion,
Right.
and then also back pain. but both of these have cleared up for most people either within 24 hours or within a week.
Okay.
Got it.
So that is definitely a treatment that I support. The research stands true. This is not like past drug or past treatments where it was studied in the cancer population first and then brought over to sickle cell disease. This is a treatment that was studied for the development process for crizolizumab or Adakveo. Its brand name was over 5 years and development, and the data for it is just amazing. Just to see how it's affected people, and on a personal level, as an individual, that's actually my treatment, my monthly treatment.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So I hope that Ayana, you definitely got a lot for that. You could talk we can discuss more of that down the line. But thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so once again, thank you, Sister Tahirah, for joining us this evening. For those who are watching, we are both on the STEM Files platform and National Network View. National Network View is a Black-owned news media company that strives to bring you the truth every single step of the way. So definitely check them out on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. Once again, that's National Network View. We're coming towards the end of the show, and one of the things we like to do with our guests is what you call a STEM File speed round. So this is the part of the show where we get to know you outside of the topic of the show, so we get to know you more on a personal level, get to incorporate a little bit more humor and just getting to know you getting to know Sister Tahirah, the sister and the person, rather than Sister Tahirah, the scientist. So
yes,
you
sir.
ready for it?
I'm ready. I'm excited and a little nervous.
All right.
Let's go.
So yes, ma'am. So we're gonna ask you a series of questions and just go ahead and answer them the best way you can, okay?
All right.
All right. So the first thing you do or think of when you wake up.
Pray.
Beautiful. Hot or cold?
Hot.
All right. Walking or jogging?
Walking.
Best exercise. All right. So professional research or volunteerism?
Volunteerism. I'm always for the people.
Yep.
Always
Absolutely.
for the people. I think you can get to professional research later on down the line, but I think everyone should always have an experience or some type of skill set with being for the people and at the grassroots level, and that's only with volunteerism.
That's right. Absolutely. There's a certain level of human interaction that you can only get from that. Yeah.
And it strengthens our humanity, right? When we're talking about freedom, justice, peace, equality, that's you get that, you feel that, you get that when you are serving your brother or sister,
right?
Especially in a capacity where you're not getting anything in return.
Right.
So that's volunteerism has always been it for me.
Yeah, that shows you just how much you care about the situation.
Absolutely.
Just how much time you're willing to give to it without having to receive any money. So we believe in that. All right. Jabril, you got one?
Oh, dang. You done put me on the spot. Oh, okay. Pop, it should be a good one. Jays or forces?
Jays. Come on.
I had to. You from Philly and you a sneakerhead.
I love
I kind of figured the answer to that.
I copped 3 J's during this pandemic. I only got 1 pair of forces.
Wow.
The new forces gum bottom boot that my dad wants. I might have to surprise me with that.
They sick. I like them.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, well, we actually kind of touched on this a little bit. Favorite pair of shoes of all time?
Oh, favorite pair of shoes of all time? Shoes? I would say the Grapes, Jordans. What number is that? Yeah, I bought a pair of those in college, and then I lost one somehow. I don't know. And then right before 10, 10, 15, I found some, and I still have them.
That's
Those
what's
are my
up.
favorites. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. Now, be careful how you answer this next question.
Oh,
This
be
this
careful.
this will determine how I feel about anything that you're doing from here on out.
Oh no, it comes with an ultimatum.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone. Come on, I'm
Uh,
Apple. I got Apple stock. Come on, man. I make money having my phone. I don't just pay Apple to get a phone. When they make money, I make money. Apple.
okay, I
Come
guess when you
on.
put it that way, you can't be mad. If
It
it's
can't
money,
you,
I can't be mad.
it's money involved. It's money
Okay.
involved.
Okay.
Now, and I feel like everyone should do that. If it's something that you know you buy all the time and you use quite often, why invest in it? Why not?
Right. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're using it all the time, sure, you might as well get paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, what I went through, the first iPhone I had was the iPhone 4, and
Mhm.
now, well, I'm on an 11.
Right.
Gotcha.
Apple
Gotcha.
get a lot of money from me. It's only right that I get some money from them.
Right.
All right, I'm gonna let you slide since you're making money from it. I
All
ain't gonna lie.
right, all right.
All right. Cool.
Technology
Cool.
wise, I will admit, Android has been on it way before Apple.
Hey, finally.
I will admit that.
That's
But
right.
when it comes to user friendliness, I'm gonna go with Apple.
I ain't gonna lie. Like the only Apple product I have is the iPad, and I must admit it is very very. It does it in terms of like picture quality, like in camera quality and video quality.
Yeah.
Y'all really got it down pat with that. So I ain't gonna make it.
Look, when you start seeing people filming entire movies with an iPhone, you know it's something
Yeah,
going
I saw
on.
that. Okay. All right. Cool. Cool. All right. So, what's your favorite thing to cook?
Curry chicken. Curry chicken.
Yes.
I don't know what I can put. I can put any side with that, but when you're talking about like meat, like curry chicken or curry salmon,
Yeah.
those two.
Okay. So just
I'm
curry.
about
As
to go
long as
to
you got.
I'm about to go to some Caribbean restaurant and say, she
Yeah, I'm thinking about
there.
some beef patties right now.
Oh, I can do a good chicken patty for you, or
Mm.
a good veggie patty.
Can you do curry patties like
You can do
with the
so. That's what it is. So with the chicken that you put inside or the vegetables that you put inside, you make it like how you make curry chicken. So you just
mm,
it's with
just
that
stuff it up.
seasoning and you stuff it up. Yep.
Okay, that's what's up. I don't think I've ever had any homemade patties like that before. So I never
Yeah.
got to try that.
Yep.
I
Okay,
love
cool.
curry.
Yes, man. Favorite song of all time.
Oh man, that's hard. Favorite song. I don't have a favorite song.
You sound like your bro.
I don't. I like music.
Right.
I don't think
Okay.
anything's like my favorite. Now, I think I have like a favorite genre.
Okay, what's that?
Favorite genre?
All right, so it's a tie. My favorite genres are rap, of course, and I love calypso music. And
Mm,
that goes back into just the culture of what I grew up in.
yeah. It does
Even minister stuff, like older stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, I said.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you.
I was saying, do you run any of the minister's old stuff? Or it's calypso
So
stuff?
my dad is actually who put me on to the minister his music.
Okay.
And so if you can pull up the minister and a lot of his old music right on YouTube.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And he has this one, it's like I think the title and it's like Dragonair or something like that.
Okay.
But it's straight calypso. It's like it so reminds you of being in the islands. It's amazing.
Mm,
Nice.
gotcha.
But when I growing up hearing about the minister, that's especially in our family, that's the point that they would come from was his music, because they were followers of his music and him as an artist.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I seen a black and white performance of the minister doing calypso. Yeah, I thought that was incredible because it was, of course, it was before he started following the teachings of Elijah Muhammad.
Right.
And just to kind of see him in that setting, I don't know. I'm not going to say it was weird, but it felt strange in a sense. You know.
It's very different.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so youth engagement or raising money for your nonprofit.
I didn't hear the first one. I heard engagement.
Youth engagement or raising money for your nonprofit.
Youth engagement. We're going to get money regardless. I don't think I got to be out there hitting the ground that hard.
Right.
But so and when I say that, I don't have to. We love the support from our community. I mean, and we need it. But when it comes to like crowdfunding and begging people for donations, I would rather just engage with the youth. The money going to come.
Right.
Yeah. Facts.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So what's the worst job you've ever had?
Oh my gosh, I can definitely tell you that. So the worst job I had, it actually was my second job. I was a lab tech at Quest Diagnostics.
Oh man.
And I was in charge of doing all of the testing for the drug testing for people who are getting new employment or new employment. And what was it? So I did the new employer testing, the new employer drug testing, and the STD test.
Wow. Okay.
The
Why did you like it?
The environment sucked. I knew I was not a lab worker from that job. So I had that similar job at college, but college is different. So when it came to this particular position, it was my personality is just very I'm social. So to be 8 hours, sometimes 10 hours on my feet in a lab with not a lot of personality around me, it was dry. And all I'm doing is putting stuff in the centrifuge and spinning it down. And I was like, I gotta get out of here. Like this not me. And so I went to one of my mentors at CHOP and I told him what I was doing. And I was like, I want a different type of research experience, a different type of clinical research experience. I don't think my future is at the bench lab. I think I'm on the other side when it comes to collecting data and that type of stuff. So they were like, I think we have a clinical research position in our hematology department, but it's doing psychosocial research. So this research is, more of determining like those social barriers and that type of data to the pediatric sickle cell population. And I'm telling you, my first year, I blossomed. I just did. I really just found my footing. I found my footing when it came to interpreting data. I found my footing when it came to writing in journals and submitting journals. That's where all of my skill sets for my organization. I learned all of that when I got my clinical research, my first clinical research position at CHOP. And then from there, I just went up. And when it comes to developing skill sets, and I just got better.
I love that setting. I love being in the lab, working with all the tissues and the organs, and cells and all that.
I need to talk. I don't want to be in nobody's lab by myself.
I feel you on that.
I don't want this to be like, okay, so Tahirah's on. She'll be in charge of the lab today, and then I gotta wait for the people to come clean up. Like, nah, this is not gonna work for me. But you know what's so interesting? Me and my sister are both in science, and that's the end that she's on. So my sister works for Merck, so she's in charge of all the vaccines, pneumococcal, influenza, MMR.
Wow.
That's her background.
Yeah, we gotta have her on the show.
She can tell you. You gotta have my sister on the show. My sister can tell you. She can break all of that down. She can tell you what's good.
Oh, come on.
As soon as we start talking about vaccines, here they go.
Right. Right.
Here. Yeah.
Yes, I hear.
Okay.
Oh no, the devil better not be playing. Not tonight.
Right.
Not tonight.
But yeah,
Okay,
y'all
cool. Yeah, we'll
absolutely have to have
definitely.
my sister on here.
Yeah, send us her contact info.
I
We
definitely
love to do
will.
a
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. All right, cool. So we on the last few questions. So if you were stuck on an island for a year and you could only listen to 3 albums, what would they be? Now I know I know you're a fan of East Coast hip hop and East Coast rap, so I know you got some good albums.
Yeah, but I might not take all rap with me. I'm gonna
I ain't mad at you.
take an R&B album.
Okay.
So
What
3
what album is
albums.
that?
So I'm gonna take an R&B. I'm gonna take Brandy's Never Say Never album.
Okay.
I'm going to take.
You saw that Versus?
Oh, of course, I was front and center.
He was up there, first one in there.
I was the first one in there. I got my life that night. I'm going to take my second album. I'm gonna take Jay-Z's Black album.
Oh my God.
That was
All
like
right.
that was the album of like my entire, from the time I graduated high school and entered college. I was like Black albumed out. That was my soundtrack to my life then. So that's 2 hours. My third album. Hmm. My third album. Hey, that's kind of difficult. Cause see, my third album will have to be like
Oh, come on.
It's probably the traveling that's going on, probably the different areas she in.
Right.
All right, family. Yes, please excuse us for the technical difficulties. We are
some type of like calypso.
there we go.
Soca.
All right, family. Once again, please excuse the technical difficulties. Hopefully our sister will come right back in. But Jabril, can you see me?
Yep, I can see you, hear you. We're good.
All right, cool. What about you, man? Professional research, working in a professional environment or volunteerism?
Professional environments. You changed the question up on me.
Because I know you don't do. Because I know you're not in like professional research. Oh, there we go.
Oh yeah. So my environment or volunteerism. I guess when I think of volunteerism and think about it in like an environment where I'm out and about, like with the final call or whatever, or just out in the community, I would have to say like volunteerism involved in science in the community. So volunteerism all the way. I love engaging with people and being able to do that. So I had to pick volunteerism too.
Gotcha. Same here, bro. I think, sis, can you see us?
Yes, I can, and I hear you.
All right, wonderful. So what was your third album going to be?
Yeah, I definitely think the area is affecting us here.
Yeah. All right. Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I feel like you probably can hear like a increased delay.
Yeah, I hear.
We can hear you just breaking up.
All right, family. So probably at this time we're just gonna go ahead, and we were at the end of the speed round anyway, so we're just gonna go ahead and wrap things up a little bit. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Spoke too soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, let's just go ahead and wrap it up. We'll definitely bring this back on for part 4. But Jabril, you want to close this out?
Yes, sir. Family. Thank y'all so much for being with us tonight. We learned a lot. Sickle cell, right? It's Sickle Cell Awareness Month, so support how you can. We want to highlight Sis's information to get in touch with her. So we want to bring that back up. But thank you so much. It's been another edition of the STEM Files, the voice of Black culture.
I think
you're back. We are ending the show. We'll bring you back. To realize that the
Did you hear us?
I did hear you, brother.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, sis. So how can people contact you if they want to know more about what you do or get involved in your work?
Yes, so you can visit us and join our mailing list for any volunteer opportunities that we have, which will be coming down the pipeline very soon in the next couple of weeks. So you can go to Crescent Foundation SCD.org. You can also find us on Instagram at Crescent Foundation SCD and on Facebook at Crescent Foundation, a sickle cell initiative. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me, Tahirah, my first name, TAHIRAH, at crescentfoundationscd.org.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you so much again, big sis. Wonderful to have you on. Family, this has been the STEM File, the voice of STEM in Black culture. I am your co-host, the brilliant engineer, joined by Tariq Cardiac. Until next time, Tariq, we have our next guest.
Yeah, so our next guest is a chemist who specializes in making ice cream. So we like to call her the ice cream scientist. So if you have a sweet tooth, or if you know someone that has a sweet tooth, definitely check us out next Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Same place, same time. Well, of course, I just said 6 p.m. Eastern time, but come visit us right on the STEM Files on our social media handles. You can check us out and follow us. Tariq Cardiac at Tariq Cardiac, Jabrian Engineer at Jabrian_engineer. On our Facebook and YouTube, it's the STEM Files, and on Instagram is at the STEM Files. Once again, we are broadcasting our Saturday episodes simultaneously on National Network View, so definitely check them out. Again, it's National Network View.
All right, family. It's been a great time. Peace. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
Peace.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Peace.